What's up? So today I wanted to talk about how to become a fashion designer. Um, it's been a long journey for me. I've been doing this for 5 years, and I never really even considered myself to be a fashion designer until maybe like 2017. Um, and the reason why I say that is because when I first started being a fashion designer or whatever, when I first started, I was in the military, and it just started off as a hobby. I had clothing designs that I liked, and eventually I just decided to make them from scratch. Then somewhere in that era, I realized how hard it was to learn sewing patterns, and I would get so frustrated. So eventually, I just moved on to just designing the clothes and then having them manufactured. The problem is that my designs get so complicated sometimes, it's hard for the manufacturers to get everything exactly right. So then I went back to hand making all of my products and stuff. The whole reason why I'm bringing that story up is because sewing patterns are important. As a fashion designer, you have to learn how to use sewing patterns. So for anybody asking, how do you become a fashion designer? I talk with my hands a lot. I'm sorry, this is distracting. Um, the first thing I would say is go to Walmart and get a sewing machine. The one that I bought when I first started was like $78. It was the Brother brand. Sammy, no. It was the Brother brand, and it was super easy to learn. Once you buy a sewing machine, the next thing you need to do is figure out like how to thread it. You can find that on YouTube. It's super easy. That's like the basic steps. I would suggest that before you begin trying to make anything, the first thing that you should do with your sewing machine is master straight line sewing and zigzag stitching. A zigzag stitch is like this, and this is what seals the end of your fabric so that when you have something, like a fabric that needs to be tight, it doesn't rip apart pretty much. I mean, a straight line stitch can do that too, but the zigzag stitch is a lot stronger than a straight line stitch. Those are the two main things that you're going to need for anything that you're ever going to make: zigzag and straight line. And once you master that, then I would say find a sewing pattern and start to learn it. One thing I would suggest as far as sewing patterns is no matter what kind of fashion designer that you want to be, whether you want to make jackets or pants or dresses, whatever, skirts, I would suggest that you start with this sewing pattern that I'm about to recommend. I have it somewhere in my apartment. I just don't know where the picture, the actual package that it came in with, it'll show you the name and everything. But the sewing pattern that I use is it's by the brand Simplicity, and I love that brand in general. Whenever I get sewing patterns, I specifically look for Simplicity because one, they're the easiest to get a hold of, and two, to me, I think they're the easiest to learn. That's probably why they're called Simplicity. Walmart sells them. Hobby Lobby sells a shit ton of them. If you have a Hobby Lobby near you, go there as soon as you can and just look at all the sewing patterns you have. It's like sewing pattern galore. Anyway, the pattern that I recommend is Simplicity number 8268, and it's for a pair of joggers. The reason why I suggest this is because to me, I think it's super simple without it being too simple. You know what I mean? You can probably start with like a t-shirt, but I think this one is really good because it shows you, it's like an all-in-one. It shows you how to do like the pockets, how to do elastic waistbands and elastic ankle bands. I think this is the best one to use to learn. This is what I used to learn. The sewing patterns that I had back when I first started my brand in 2014 were a little bit more complex than this. And it's so crazy because literally like last night I found a box of fabric and sewing patterns from 2015, and it was pretty much like my okay, I give up box. I had a whole bunch of plans and shit, that's things that I thought I was gonna make. And then I'm looking at these sewing patterns today and I'm like, these are easy as fuck. Like, and it just showed me how much I've grown and how much I've learned. And I'm so proud of myself. Just, you know, knowing that I finally took the time to learn sewing patterns, because that's probably why I didn't feel like a fashion designer, because I didn't know how to really make anything that I designed. Now I can look at a sewing pattern for a jacket and make a jacket. Sometimes I don't even need a sewing pattern. If you watched my last video, I made a jumpsuit and I didn't use a sewing pattern for the top half, but I used a sewing pattern for the bottom half. The bottom half sewing pattern is this jogger's pattern. The good thing about sewing patterns is that it's just the base. You can turn anything into whatever you want it to be. For example, the sewing pattern that I normally use is just for basic joggers, right? And with that sewing pattern, I made these. It's super simple, but the thing is that the sewing pattern is just a base, so you can add stuff to it, and you can, you know, you can make whatever you want out of the base. Is pretty much what I'm getting at. What I would suggest also is that go to YouTube and really learn how to make the most out of a sewing pattern. What I've seen people do online on YouTube is that they'll buy a sewing pattern and then they'll cut out, like, you're supposed to cut out the pieces, yes, but you're not supposed to cut out the individual sizes. And I see people do that, and that's like a big mistake. Especially if you're somebody who wants to eventually sell your products and sell the stuff that you're making, you have to pretty much get like this sewn pattern fabric or whatever, trace the size that you want, and then cut it out of that fabric. Like, for example, my sewn pattern has a shit ton of sizes. I think it's like small, medium, large, extra large in adults, and small, medium, large, extra large in kids. So whenever I wanted to make a large pair of pants, what I did is I used this fabric, traced the size, and then I cut out the size. So this is like the front part of a size large. And I have this same thing for small, medium, and extra large for the different sizes of stuff that I want to make. So sewing patterns are so important, you guys. And if you're anything like me, if it's just too much for you in the beginning, that's okay. Like, I am so grateful that I found that I Give Up box, because now I know what to do with it, and now I can make some bomb ass things out of it. So just, there's really no rush. Like, just take your time. You're gonna evolve, whether you do it today or a year from now or 6 months from now. All I can say is just don't give up. I mean, sometimes it can be super complicated. Like, even now, I see things that I want to make and I buy a pattern and I get so frustrated because some of them can be a lot of, you know, like a lot of pieces. Like, for example, there's a simplicity pattern for overalls that I wanted to make last year. And that set of sewn pattern, it had, I think the outfit was 20 pieces. And I was so overwhelmed, I couldn't figure it out. This year, I went back to it and I took my time, and it was like riding a bike that I have never learned to ride, but it was like somewhere in a past life I knew how to do it, or something crazy like that, I don't know. But all I'm saying is that as a fashion designer, sewing patterns are very, very important. Now, the next thing I would suggest is, once you have like a good amount of things that you've created, apply to be in some fashion shows. One thing I will say is that with the fashion shows, it's kind of hard to gauge like which ones will have the kind of people that you want to showcase your designs to, and which ones don't. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm a streetwear designer, I don't want to showcase in a fashion show with, you know, like fancy ass dresses and, you know what I mean, formal stuff. I mean, I'd stand out, but sometimes that's not always in my best interest. Plus the cost. I've had a lot of organizations reach out to me and say, hey, you know, we saw your designs, or we saw your Instagram or whatever, and we would love to have you in New York Fashion Week, blah, blah, blah. And that's cool, but the problem is that a lot of those invitations and all of those people who invite me to do these things, they want me to pay like $1,500 to be in the show. And if I had it, I'd do it. The only problem is that right now I don't really have it, and I don't know what is going to come out of it. Which is not to say that I shouldn't do it, but if I can't, as me right now, I can't risk $1,500 just to have myself out there in exposure, not knowing if I'm gonna get any sales or if anything's gonna come out of it or if anybody's gonna want to pick up my designs. You know what I mean? So I go towards other types of fashion shows. Like, for example, I do Raw Artist fashion shows. Raw Artist is a really good platform for creatives. Um, they have this thing where you apply to be like a designer or musician or whoever. If they accept you, then you pick whatever show you want to be in. In order for you to be in the show, you have to sell 20 tickets. Once you sell 20 tickets and you showcase in that show, then they'll give you a chance to be in another show for free. So then you don't have to sell tickets. And I do shows with them very often. I also do shows with Trap Art. They are pretty much based in California. I fly to California often to do shows with them as well. Amina Brooks is the founder, the owner of Trap Art. Her and her husband, and she is amazing, y'all. When I first met her, I thought she was the organizer for that one event. And then I found out that she was the owner, and I was just so in awe because I'm like, yo, you are a woman and you're like killing this shit. And yeah, I was really, really proud of her when I found out that she's the owner. Even if she was just the organizer, her whole presence was like very inspiring. She's definitely on my like top 10 people of, damn, I gotta get on her level type shit. So the first thing I said was learn the 2 basic stitches, learn sewing patterns, apply to be in fashion shows. Then I would say, depending on you and what kind of time you have, I would also say in these fashion shows, bring somebody with you. That way they can sell some of your pieces. One thing I used to like to do is whenever I design something or if I made something, in that same sitting, I would make 2. One that I can showcase and one that I can sell. Or one that I can showcase and one that I can send to a manufacturer and have them make it for me. That way they'd have like the sample and I can say, okay, this is what I want you to make it exactly like this, versus me just showing them a picture or a tech pack and saying, make this. You know what I mean? There's more room for error if you don't have a physical sample. And one thing I will also say is that as a fashion designer, you don't have to make all of your own products. I don't know if I plan to do this, like make my own products forever. I'm a little torn. It's like I used to want to be like a Tom Ford kind of person, but I think now I may be going towards, I want to be a fashion designer. I want to make my own samples for my brand that I'm going to sell, and I want to create a fashion house of people who, are in-house, and I can teach them how to make things, and they can make the stuff that I design. I make the sample, and they make the stuff that we sell. That way, everything stays in-house. I don't have to worry about manufacturers really copying me too hard or, make it easy for them to copy me. And I can also create jobs for other people as well. So I'm not really sure where I want to go. But what I'm trying to say is, as a fashion designer, you can definitely make the stuff that you want to sell and then have a manufacturer make it. Manufacturing or having manufacturers making your designs is not as scary and it's not as difficult and complicated as some people make it seem, or as complicated as it may seem. You just have to make sure that you tone down the room for error. Like for me, like I said, I make samples. I make more than one sample if I'm going to send it to a manufacturer. And on top of that sample, I will send them a tech pack. A tech pack is like a graphic of your design, and you pretty much point out everything that you want to be done. You'll say, okay, this fabric is so-and-so kind of fabric. This stripe on this arm is 2 inches. You know what I mean? Like it's just like a breakdown of your entire design, the inseam sizes and everything. So I also send that in addition to the sample. That way they can't say, oh, well, we didn't know. And then before anything is made, I make sure we talk about every point, everything on that tech pack. They send me a sample, I approve it, then I make the bulk order for production or whatever. Sewing is not as hard as you think. Trust me. I want to stress that so much. Sewing, the hardest part about sewing is cutting out the fabric and measuring. Literally, that's like the hardest part. Sewing and using a sewing machine is so easy, especially once you figure out how to zigzag stitch and straight stitch. I will tell you that the only time I use a straight stitch is if I have like a stripe that I want to add. Everything that I make, if it has no stripes on it, I use a zigzag stitch. And I'm trying to show you an example. So I don't know if you can see this. Hold on. This is a terrible. This is a zigzag stitch. And some fabric will flare. Some fabric will fray. It's like a fucking tongue twister. Some fabric will fray. Jesus. Okay. After you zigzag stitch, but it's okay as long as it's on the inside. It won't unravel, if that makes sense. Like for this one, you can see that it has like some little pieces that stick up, but it's on the inside, so it's not gonna fray and it's not gonna unravel and it's not gonna weaken my stitch. But you just, as a fashion designer, you just pretty much have to decide. Stop barking like that. As a fashion designer, you pretty much have to decide what direction you want to go in. But you don't have to make that decision overnight. It doesn't have to take you 2 months to make a decision. You don't have to make that decision in 2 years. Like, it's been 5 years for me and I'm still going back and forth. You just have to do whatever works for you at the time. If 2 years from now I decide I want to manufacture myself, and then 5 years from now I decide I want to go back to making my own products, as long as I'm making money, who cares? You know what I mean? So once again, the points, right? I would say go to Walmart, buy a sewing machine, and let me tell you, I'm still using my sewing machine that I got from Walmart. That shit cost me $78 that I got from Walmart, $80, and it works so good. Even when I have like thick fabric, when I'm making like puffer jackets and stuff, layers and layers of thick fabric, it has never broke. It's never given me issues. It's fire. So I definitely say go to Walmart, get the $78 Brother sewing machine. Work on your straight line and your zigzag stitching. Work on learning sewing patterns. If you can find, the one that I suggested is good. If you can find something simpler, then I would say go with that. Apply to be in fashion shows, especially ones that you don't really have to pay to be in. Sometimes it's good just to build yourself up, and then, if you decide that you want to pay to be in these things, and you can. That's up to you, whatever direction you want to go in. And then just figure out, at least for now, how you want to sell your products. If you want to start off selling it for yourself, or if you want to start off with having your stuff manufactured, you can definitely do that as well. If you are watching this video, I'm so excited. If you're watching this video, I'm so excited for you, because that means that you are taking the first steps into doing something that you are either passionate about or interested in, or whatever the fuck. It just makes me happy, like. Because truly, if you're watching this video, you're trying to get shit done, and I'm proud of you. Honestly, like, I'm really excited about the direction that, this is going to take people. So, I made this video because somebody found one of my YouTube videos and hit me up on Instagram and was like, hey, do you mind making a video about how to become a fashion designer? She did ask me that like 2.5 weeks ago. I should have been made this, but I've been so caught up in other stuff. It's taking me a while. But if you have any questions, if I feel like I am knowledgeable enough to give you an answer or to make a video, I definitely will. Don't be afraid to reach out. You can hit me up on Instagram or Twitter at Laura Adupaton. I don't know if YouTube has messages. I don't know that much about YouTube, to be honest. And I don't want to start rambling, because I definitely will. But I truly do hope that this video was informative, and I hope that you can get something out of it. If I didn't say enough, I'm sorry. I'm a little nervous about giving advice. I feel like I am knowledgeable enough on this subject to give advice. But like I said, if you want to know anything else, just hit me up. And also, if you want to support me, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, please. If you click the bell button, you'll get a notification whenever I make another post. You should also watch my last video. I'm going to add it to the end of this video. It was my first time making a jumpsuit. It was fire. Yeah. So, go ahead and watch that. Alright, but thank you again for watching, and until next time.